Okay, so masterclass number 4 is about to begin. Please settle down and let's warmly welcome our teachers, Peter Myrtle, Team Lowenhaupt, and Marija Myrtle.
Welcome everybody, good morning. Thank you, Rob, for leading a meditation this morning. He's outside now. Thank you, Rob. He's socializing. So today this is the Staircase House class, and I was thinking about it last night a little bit because the topic seems a little bit Classics House as it relates to Staircase House, and I was kind of thinking about how we can navigate this, because the class we're supposed to talk about we're supposed to talk about what are these things called vows, and what purpose do they have, how do they help us. And then when we're talking about Staircase House, which is mainly steps on the path, right? We've been talking a lot about how can we bring these teachings to less Buddhist audiences, but give them the core and the core ideas. What can you do in your day-to-day life with these amazing ideas step by step? And I had a conversation with Sumati at the beginning of the event, and we were debating, well, how do we water it down from the classical presentation to a normal presentation, and the idea that somehow we're watering something down for normal people is not the direction we're actually going in at all. They both said thank you. You didn't hear it on the microphones. And Sumati was very clear. He said, what we're doing is we're building people's minds and hearts step by step. We're helping people transform themselves step by step. So each step leads to the next one. 6 flavors of emptiness. Which one's the right one? Come on, this is where you have to wake up and participate.
Minus $100.
Yeah, you all owe us $100. Okay. There's 6 different presentations. Mainly there's 6 presentations of emptiness, and each one helps us get to the most profound one. And of course we teach the watered down version, right? Like when you're having a bad night, Tim, and you're trying to go to bed and they're having a big wedding party right next to your door at a 5-star hotel where you're paying a lot of money and you just want to go to bed. Emptiness goes out the window. And all I could think is, this too shall pass when they stop in an hour and a half. Right? But so the idea here is, in the Staircase House, we're not watering things down. Lamrim is not a watering down. And in fact, anything we're doing in the 5 houses is not a simplification in the idea that, we're just making it easier for people to understand. Yes, we're making it accessible for people to understand, but we're building things step by step. Right? And even in your own practice, if you really think about it, what are you willing and able to do now? And what do you aspire to be able to do? And then if you look backwards, who were you before? Like, if you look at your capacity before, now, and where you're aspiring to, it's a staircase. Sometimes it's an easy staircase. Sometimes it's a 17th century vertical staircase that you slip and fall down, right? So that's what we're doing. So today we're going to talk about the idea of vows. And what does it mean, and how can you think about it? Because there's different positive ways, and there's some afflictions that sometimes come up. So I'm going to start with you, Marija. Okay. My first question for you is about, like, why did the Buddha create vows in the first place?
Ooh. Thank you, Tim.
Was he being a mean parent and telling you what you should and shouldn't do?
Thank you so much for the question. Good morning, everyone. So good to be with you here. Such an amazing event. Wow. Vows. I remember when I heard the word vows for the first time. I think Peter told me that there are vows. Okay, I never heard the word vows before that, just for your understanding, because in normal life you somehow don't use this word. I don't know, my personal impression, I was not scared, because vows sounds, I know for some people like, ooh, scary and something. I was not scared because Peter really explained to me, I think very well, that Buddha actually wants to help us. The only wish Buddha has, and his or her, the only job, is to help us. To help us be successful in every aspect of their life, and to help us to reach the highest goal. And only that thought already is unbelievable. They are beings in this world who are trying to help us. And we know the historical Buddha who lived 2,500 years ago. And he lived for us a certain instructions, rules or vows. Why? Why did he say do this and don't do this? What do you think, guys? And why shall we follow that? Why is that a good idea? Who has the vows? Can you raise the hand? Any vows, doesn't matter. Okay, many people. Why? Why do you think it's a good idea? Yeah, anyone. Directions to know how to behave for good results. Exactly. Like we all here, studying Nang and Tong and Nan, which means everything comes from us and nothing exists outside of our seats, which means everything we think, say, and do comes back to us. So then the natural question is, well, Buddha, if we create everything, then what's the best way to create a happy life and to stop all suffering, to reach the highest goal, right?
Another thing was to know how not to hurt people.
Exactly. How can I not to hurt other beings? How can I not hurt myself? What can I do? My question would be also like, Buddha, what's the highest karma I can do? Because there's so many things possible to do and not to do, but what's the highest things I can do so I can reach my goals? And Buddha was like, well, here is the list of rules. Here is what you should do, and here is what you should not do. If you want to be successful, if you want to be happy, if you want to reach enlightenment. And there are different sets of vows with slightly different focus and goals, I would say. Did I answer your question?
You answered it beautifully. Notice I didn't say she answered the question. as a debater. You answered beautifully. That's the whole point. So what we're doing here is also, I'm starting a podcast called the Siddhartha Sessions. And I've been practicing the format on you in several events. You know, the idea is to have a program where people are just conversing about their practice. Not so much like, hey, I'm the teacher and you should listen to me. You should. Just kidding. I saw that like, oh, Marija. No, but the idea is more like, let's just talk about our practice. Let's talk about it in real life, right? How do we live it? Because I think vows, for example, in this particular session, is we relate to them differently. Each of us may have different experiences with these ideas of vows. And Marija was giving us this idea of, we don't know how to necessarily get to the highest goals. But someone who did, Gautama Buddha, was like, I did it. Well, maybe he gave us some ideas on how to get there too. Or she gave us some ideas on how to get there as well. Right? So I have a question for you, Peter, now.
Yes, please.
When I hear the word vow, I get a little, it sounds like forever. Marriage vows. Guess what? I'm not married. There's a kind of, it can be really intense, until death do us part, right? For some people react that way, not all people, or even longer. We'll get to that in a second. So let's pretend the word vow, like I like to think of things sometimes with different words. How do you think about it? And are there different ways that we can soften the idea of vows for people who might be like, oh my God, that's too much for me?
Thank you. Thank you, Tim, for having us on this beautiful event. Marija and I are very grateful. Good job. We're not complaining about the great breakfast. We're just grateful. Thank you so much. Yesterday. So can we give Tim an applause also, because I know how hard it is to do this. And thank you. To start with, I want to use this opportunity to also thank the onliners, because I know they are somewhere in the world and they're tired or sometimes distracted. Thank you for being here. I believe being online plants the seeds for you to be able to eventually come to offline events, which is very cool. And the translators team, thank you. Oh my God. I hope I don't speak too fast. If anyone gets blue on the screen, let me know, Sarah and Pachi, okay? I love this new approach to the ACI idea of the 5 houses, and that ties into your question, how can you think about vows? I'm not sure softening is the right word, but to make it desirable to take vows. So, Marija and me, we are constantly thinking how can we present these teachings in a way so that people get seduced into it, that they really want to not just listen to it, but also practice it. And in connection with the discussion with Tim, with the ACI headquarters, for me, at this point, it is very clear that the teachings always come in 2 parts, kind of. One is the packaging. So, for example, Geshe Michael's packaging, when he learned it was a monastic system. There were no ACI courses. No one had there was no such a thing. And then he transformed the whole teachings from the monastery, created ACI courses. So I believe if you talk to some monastics from one of the wisdom universities, they look at the ACI courses, they will say, wow, this is a super development. This is not the classic presentation. And that's one thing, if you want to follow what Geshe Michael is doing, and if you want to follow the ACI tradition, you have to adapt and be ready to change it every 10 years. And the 5 houses is one example of that, which I love. What does that have to do with vows? Slower, thank you. The second half of the wisdom that we get delivered, we study and pass on, is a universal truth which is completely detached from any kind of packaging. It doesn't need a name. It doesn't need well, it does need a form, but the truth in its own is just the way it is. Example. Everything you do comes back to you. You can give that words, you can give it a color in form of ropes, you can do anything with that, but whatever you do, it doesn't change the fact that that is true. Another universal truth is the story with the pen. Nothing exists which is not coming from you. So, and that those core ideas need different formats in different times for people to be able to use them. And the third universal truth is that there are guidelines of how you can be happy. We call that vows. If the packaging is hard for you, Marija didn't have a problem, she never heard the word. I sold the packaging well, apparently. She likes it.
Yeah, when I heard vows, I'm like, yes, give it to me. I didn't even know what is this. Yes, I want it.
I don't know if you guys know, but I think Peter sold the packaging on the first night because they agreed to basically be together forever the first night.
did.
So, I mean, so if he's as a salesperson, I think you're doing a pretty good job.
Trying.
Which, by the way, means it's important to sell the idea.
Yes.
You cannot just tell other people,
Yes.
hey, hi, come take vows.
Yes. So if you have, Tim asked me, how can you soften up that your vows? You know? So if you have the feeling that this is a little hard from you, I think my suggestion is, number one, recognize that in your mind you're rejecting a packaging, but not the truth. You somehow, and we all have that, I mean, the whole idea of going from karma to mental seeds is exactly, in the DDW language, right, is exactly the same what Geshe Michael is doing with the word karma. It's a packaging, but not the universal truth that you're creating your world. So when you feel in your bones, vows is a little like difficult. Again, recognize that something in your mind, probably past lives, leads to that you reject the packaging. And that, God bless, that's okay. But also at the same time recognize that it's impossible to reject the truth because it's the truth. Your world is being created by your actions. Now, last part of my answer. Sometimes when we struggle with things and we don't want to do something which we know we should do, we could ask ourselves, I think in presentation it's called a headstand. Like I explained. In this case, ask yourself how the world would be and your life would be if there were no vows. Meaning no one ever came and said, number one, everything comes from you. Number two, what you do creates your reality. And number three, good luck. Now imagine, like, then what? Everyone is going to figure out that killing leads to being killed, etc. That's not nice. Would be a terrible world in my reality. And I think when you chew on that topic, there might be a rejection to the packaging. The universal truth is unnegotiable if you understand it. And then three, oh my God, the Buddha actually told us what to do. I don't have to figure that out myself. I think you start to fall in love with the concept eventually.
Tech team, is there a timer somewhere so we can know? Where is it? On the screen. Okay, thank you so much. So I'm going to challenge Peter a little bit via Marija here. And I'm going to challenge it not because, how do I say this? When somebody tells me this is the truth, again, I also get a little like, little like, my feathers get ruffled. I'm just like, who are you to tell me what the truth is? Bam, right? Makes me know. Like, and I think there's something about that's also built into Buddhism, and built into the steps on the path. Like, Peter said, okay, well, that's the truth, so then you should therefore follow it, right? I mean, how do you know it's the truth? Is it the truth because Peter told you that? Is it the truth because Tim said it? Is it the truth because Marija says it? Is it the truth because Geshe Michael said, oh, but Geshe Michael's the founder, so therefore it must be true. Wholly respectfully, right? So, Marija, my question is, how do we accept truth? Like, how do we come to accept the truth? If someone in Buddhism says, well, this is how it is, like, why do I have to believe that? Like, or what do I do to get there that will motivate me to want to maybe take vows a little bit more strongly?
First of all, you don't have to believe anything, right? That's our mantra. In our tradition and system, you don't have to believe anything. And Buddha said that also, right? Think, you have to think. You have to think. Even when somebody on stage is telling you this is the truth, you have to think, check, and you have to use your logic. Don't just blindly believe anything. I mean, right now in our world, people are saying many things. And with internet, we have access to anything. You open your social media or internet, different people, politicians, business people say many different things. There are many different spiritual leaders also. And everyone thinks they're saying the truth. But what is truth for you? How do you decide that, right? And that's not an easy question. And that's why in our tradition, and in Buddhism, I believe in general, there is so much emphasis on learning logic. And I don't know about you, but when I heard about that, when Peter told me, like vows were easy, okay, I told you, but when he told me you need to learn logic, I was like,
That was a much harder sell.
that word I didn't like. Okay, logic, I don't know. I had a rejection toward logic. I don't know why. Also something from past lives, I guess.
Interesting, because I reject vows but love logic.
You see? Together, good combination.
Yes.
I don't know why, but somehow, and I hear from many women, many female ladies that we are like, logic, difficult. But after, 13 years of studying, practicing, I realized, what, ladies, if somebody also has some rejections to logic word, just call it differently, okay? Because we all need to use our mind to understand things. And it's so important to figure out what is the truth. Is it really true that the world comes from me? Because that's crucial for your whole life. Is it true or not? Or are you just like, oh, sounds cool, maybe I'll try 4 steps. That's also okay. But eventually, you need to figure out, is it true that I need to follow all these vows or rules or whatever you call it, guidelines that Buddha gave us? Is it true for me? Like you have to figure out eventually. And don't just believe it blindly. Study. I would say you need to study. And don't decide, oh, everyone is taking vows, I'll also do that. Don't do that. First study. Seriously. Study in 5 houses, study with teachers, and figure out, and only when you feel, okay, it's true for me. And they're really, I mean, there are teachings on how to figure out what is true and what is not. I'm not going to go there because that's too much. But there are teachings on how to, clear instructions on how to figure out what is true. Buddha taught it himself, actually. So study, learn, and then decide what is truth for you. And if it makes sense, all these instructions. And also, do I need to take vows, or can I just follow instructions without vows? That's the next question. I can maybe be a nice person and pretty much do all these things, but I don't do the promise for the rest of my life.
Not good enough.
Like, what's the difference? That's the question to Tim.
Wait, I'm the moderator here.
Sorry.
No, I think that I asked them to do this, because I think it's really, I think that's a really great question. Like, what's the difference between, here's a set of guidelines that, okay, I did the logic, I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, it looks like the world's coming from me, I can't argue against it. And if I want to see a different world in the future, what world do I want to see? So this is how I went from logic to vows, right? Because I'm going to ask you a different question. We're going to go on a different tangent in a second about the order of taking vows. The order, okay? But for me, it was all about, okay, so if I want to create a better world, and I'm just saying selfishly, for myself, right? A world that I'm going to see that's better for me, better health, better mind, more money, better relationships. You know, of course, the teachings themselves go on to say, well, to do that, you have to do the 4 steps. Okay, well, what are the 4 steps? Okay, all right. So I do the 4 steps, and I start doing I'm like, well, let me try it out. So I start helping some people, help people in getting the same things that I'm wanting. Then all of a sudden, weird stuff starts happening in your life, right? Things that you didn't think were possible just start happening. And so then you start having this confirmation that, well, maybe there's something to this. Then you do it again. Shi Sampa Jora Tartuk. Right? 4 steps. Do it again. Then you start seeing results. Then you do it again. And you're like, okay, well, let's try to do this without the 4 steps. See how well that goes. Well, it doesn't go very well. For me, it doesn't go very well. I was talking to Jacqueline about a week or 2 ago, and I said, you know, Jacqueline, I had this really great insight. She was like, what's that? And I said, I did the 4 steps. I've been sick for like 6 months, and I was like, maybe I should help someone else who's sick. Brilliant, Tim. What a great idea. Right? And then things shifted strangely very quickly. Okay? And by the way, as a selling point for more vows, when you have more vows, when you take Diamond Way vows, and you also learn how to utilize the 4 steps in more powerful ways, more directed ways, in the Diamond Way methods, you can move things much more quickly. In both directions. Jacqueline laughs in the back. I think that was Jacqueline. Because she knows. You know how slippery it is. Okay? And that's why we take some time in the steps on the path to build a strong, strong foundation. So it doesn't become slippery when you start working at that level. But you have, it doesn't matter, oh, I'm such a great tantrika, I didn't do the 4 steps for 6 months. But that's part of your practice. And all of a sudden, Kat and I talked about this, all of a sudden you go, 4 steps. Right? And the whole point of what I'm saying is that you have to confirm it for yourself. Like there's 3 main steps in understanding emptiness. And the Buddha taught this. One is called analysis. She said, I don't like logic. So are there other words for logic, clear thinking, analysis, coming to it yourself, understanding it, integrating it into yourself? Like, what are the words that work for you? I don't care what word you use.
You know what's my word?
What's your word?
How to convince your husband to do what you want to do. That's why
Works
you need
very
that.
well for her, actually.
I'm not getting in between this. How to convince somebody of something. How to convince yourself of something. How to look at the things that you thought were true in your own mind, and are they actually true? Did you ever think about the things you were taught? Well, the world is this way. Really? Why? Be a kid again. Be that annoying kid. Why, mommy? Why, mommy? Why, mommy? Why, mommy? But do it to yourself. Right? Get annoying to yourself. But for me, what I got to was through the analysis, the convincing my own mind that, hey, dude, there's something, you're not right. That's probably the hardest thing for any ego. You're not right. We all go through it eventually. Then you get to a place called experience. You have more direct experiences to confirm or unconfirm your belief system. And then the third thing is called tokpa, which is called realization, where you have a direct experience of something that nobody can change, nobody can take away from you. It doesn't matter what anybody says. And that's different from having a belief system that's not examined. Because the internet will say things to you like, this is the right way to be. This is the truth. In the United States, it is legal to lie. It's legal to lie. You can say anything you want in the United States, whether it's true or not. That's ridiculous. Free speech. Does free speech equal the permission to lie? Okay, but here's the question. Does free speech that allows you to lie, what world does that create? And that's where the logic has to come in. Just because you're allowed to say whatever you want doesn't mean it doesn't have consequences. Karmic consequences, seed consequences, cause and effect consequences, the butterfly effect for the future. Whatever words you want to use, I don't care. Whatever resonates with you, I do care. That's why I try to find, I'm a thesaurus. I'm a walking thesaurus. I try, okay? Thesaurus, like that book that has synonyms in it. Like you look it up, like how do you say all the different ways to say cause and effect? But for me, I had to go from the analysis side to then prove to myself that, oh, okay, look, these guidelines over here are going to create a better world. And if I don't do those, what world will I create? Maybe I want that world. Maybe the people of the United States want that chaotic world. I highly doubt they want that. I highly doubt anybody wants that. But when you don't know the difference, and you haven't been taught the difference, and haven't been taught to think for yourself what that difference is, then that creates chaos. Okay? And so for me, going from logic, clear thinking, how to convince my husband to do what I want him to do, to these are the guidelines that I've committed myself. The commitment is not, to me, the commitment is not the vows. I commit to be a bodhisattva. Samkepane Chanchunchir. Yandak Sokpe Chanchupta, right? I commit myself to becoming a totally enlightened Buddha for the benefit of others, Shindan Chir, right? I'm committing to creating that world. So anything that I can do to create that, I'm on board for that. So bring it on. Give me the 10 freedom vows. I'm going to skip over the monastic vows because that part freaks me out, but give me the monastic vows, okay? Give me the refuge commitments. Give me the 5 layperson vows. Give me bodhisattva vows. Give me diamond way vows. Give me the things that are going to create that world, because I'm not smart enough myself to know all the things to do. But I've done enough mistakes. I've made enough mistakes. All my past lives. All my past lives, including this. I make mistakes all the time. I made mistakes at dinner last night. In my own mind. The mistakes I made in my mind were creating a world that I don't want to see. So for me, that's how I did it. That's how I got there. Like, but you have to get there yourself. Like, I could blah blah to you all day, right? But what world do you want? What do you want for yourself? What do you want for others? And then once you decide that, how do you get there? Does free speech with lying get you there? Maybe it does. Maybe not. You know, but you have to think about it. You have to think about all the little things. The problem is then you get obsessed, and if you're like me and have OCD, then you become obsessed over every little tiny detail. Right? Then you have to okay, hold on, relax. Like you're being motivated by past karma right now. Like things that are arising right now at dinner have nothing to do what you did last week or 2 weeks ago. You were a good person, Tim. You took care of people. All this other stuff that you're being accused of is not from that. It's from something else. Analysis, you have to do it, right? So I have a different question for you, Peter. Thank you, it's a good question. So there's an order. There's an order to taking vows, right? There's steps on the path. Okay, we have some steps. And Peter, I'm wondering if you can talk about it a little bit. You know, going from freedom vows through diamond way vows. And there's something I want to focus on specifically when you kind of talk about it. Is there's a thing in AC, I found Foundation Course 7, ACI 7, 5 Houses 7, the Bodhisattva Vow course, that talks about who you should take Bodhisattva vows from. And I feel like it's a little pressure-oriented.
Pressure-oriented?
Yes.
Why?
Because people think they have to take the Bodhisattva vows with their Diamond Way Master, because it says so. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about that along the way of the order of the vows and how one gets there.
Right. Okay, thank
It's
you.
a very complicated question.
Cool question, I like it. Well, you know, the order of the vows, basically individual freedom vows, bodhisattva, and then diamond way vows, for me it has 2 aspects that benefit us or benefit you. One aspect is for me the gym idea. When you go into the gym and you want to become Arnold Schwarzenegger, big muscles. Then it's not beneficial if you start with 200 pounds on the first day and try to do it. Your arm is going to break. So it's really the same with your mind. You need to get used to the idea of vows, and the freedom vows are pretty easy to keep. Why can I say that the freedom vows are pretty easy to keep? Because if you have the seeds to understand and be interested in freedom vows, it means you're already a good person. Otherwise you wouldn't hear that. It would kind of bounce off your mind. So one aspect and reason for the order is the level of difficulty. The freedom vows are relatively easy to keep. I don't know about nuns and monks' vows, that's another story. But
Not yet.
yeah, the freedom vows are easy. The bodhisattva vows build on that, and then the diamond way vows build on the bodhisattva vows. So it's a staircase again, where you, number one, it's easy for you to do it, and then it grows automatically by taking the first ones, the seeds are planted for the second level. The second reason why I think the order is extremely beautiful, powerful, and important is that in the freedom vows, you learn to stop hurting yourself on the most basic level. Like, if you want to reach your goals, you need to have a long life because there's so much to study. So number one, stop killing others. If you stop killing others, you will be protected of being killed, of being hurt. And another way of selling the vows to yourself or to others is to really say, they are not really difficult, they're just rules to stop hurting yourself. You cannot hurt a Buddha even if you wanted to, because that karma cannot be created, because it's not possible for him to be hurt. That's the example where the arrows turn into flowers. So 3 reasons for the order. Number 1, level of difficulty. Number 2, importance for your own happiness. And then the last one, I think, is that the amount of vows is also a bit of a challenge, you know, right? The capacity that you have to think about things and control yourself, which has to do with easiness, I guess, as well, from 5 to 10 to 64 to more, is one aspect. Now, about the question about who to take the vows from and those consequences, I believe this is a packaging question again, because in what we study, what we learn from Geshe Michael, which we called ACI before, now the 5 houses, comes from a monastic system where it was your path forward on the vow staircase was pretty clear and limited because of the teachers that you had, is my take. And therefore, if you knew that if you ever become a Geshe and allowed to study maybe the Diamond Way, which is very precious, then you already kind of know who is going to will teach you the Diamond Way, and you'll try to get the Bodhisattva vows from that guy.
Or girl.
Well, in the monastery. Okay, a girl. Now, frankly, we have been struggling with that question with our groups and people. When you are about to take the Bodhisattva vows, you cannot really know yet who you're going to take the diamond vows from. It's not really possible. So that's why, relax. It might change, and that's okay. However, I believe if you take the Bodhisattva vows with the intention to eventually take the Diamond Way vows. So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to take the Bodhisattva vows, which I know I cannot keep. I mean, if I knew I could keep them, I wouldn't have to take them. I know this is going to be a challenge. But in the unlikely scenario that I actually managed to do a good job, it would be really cool that I could take the diamond vows at some point later as well. And I believe that plants a seed for you to eventually take the diamond vows from someone. So, remember, for many of the rules in the Vinaya, the context of how the rule was created. One example is Buddha didn't say switch the mobile phone off before you meditate, which right now is one of the most important things you have to do before you meditate. So there are rules which we have to adapt, which were not being spoken 2,000 years ago. And logically, there must be rules that were spoken 2,000 years ago or in the last millennia, which we have to adapt. We have to keep the core idea, but don't have to follow the exact thing. That would be my take.
So, again, I agree, and I'm going to challenge, because I think this is what we should be doing, right? So if the Buddha is an omniscient being, Marija, and the Buddha spoke 2,500 years ago and could see past, present, and future at that moment directly, okay, what is the relationship between that moment and this conversation today?
Are you hinting that Buddha knew we are going to be talking about it today?
I am just asking a question.
I really like that idea, by the way, that enlightened being 2,500 years ago was giving teachings, giving guidelines, not only to the students that he had at that time around him, but he knew me 2,500 years later, going to be struggling in my life, trying to figure out what am I supposed to do. And he knew I'm going to be interested in Dharma, and he knows all my mind, he knows all my mistakes, he knows my thoughts, he knows my karma, which, like, I don't know my past lives, I have no idea, but he knows. So I really love that idea.
Knows.
Sorry, she maybe. No, I'm talking about Buddha Shakyamuni, 2,500 years ago. That's he. Maybe. I mean, looks like that. I really like that idea that he was teaching for me at that time. So I'm sorry, the Diamond Cutter Sutra actually was written for me. I'm sorry, guys. I mean, you should be thinking like that also, right? It's not only... You should be thinking, wow, Buddha knew me 2,500 years ago. He knew what kind of life I'm going to have. He knew everything about me. And he was teaching, keeping in mind that I'm going to listen to that 2,500 years ago. That's amazing. That's like a tantric special message. I think it is Diamond Way. For me, it is Diamond Way. What exactly was your question?
Exactly that. The question about, like, was it a message in a bottle? Was it something that was sent for us right now that knows our minds? What do we struggle with? What are our concerns? And how can we think about that so we can then start creating that world?
I like to use the same idea even with teachers that we have right now, not 2,500 years ago, but teachers who are alive and teaching. I'm like, what if they kind of somehow, I don't know, special messengers for me? What if they're teaching not 150 people here and 2,000 people online? What if they're actually teaching me? They know me and they're talking to me directly. And when I'm sitting also like you right now in that room and listening to Geshe Michael, for example, I like to think that he's actually talking to me directly. I like to see it as messages directly to me. And then it becomes really special teachings for me. You see?
And last thing I want to say before we have a Q&A is something I've seen in a lot of people, and including myself, when they've taken vows, is they get eventually they get happy. But along the way, they overjudge themselves. And they say, I'm such a bad person. I'm not doing enough. I didn't follow the vows correctly. Oh my God, I had this one random thought. Oh my God, I'm such a terrible person. First of all, vows are, if you weren't going to break them and do the opposite action, you wouldn't need them in the first place, right? First thing, right? Second thing, the more advanced the vows get, you're going to have to let that shit go. Okay? Because it becomes like, it's difficult. You know, each moment of your mind, are you aligned or not? And what I'd like to say is that, and Peter said this and Marija said it, she has something else to say in a second, I think, is that you already are good people. You wouldn't be here in this room if you weren't already extraordinarily special people. To even think, I want to be a better person, to even think I want to be a better person for others. I want a better world for others. And I want to strive to become someone who could make that possible. You're already in the top 0.0001% of humanity, right? So give yourself a little bit of credit. And when you have those, I'm not a good enough person thought, try to go out, try to push outside of that. Because you're trying to do something that's completely opposite to the way that everybody else thinks and operates. It is really difficult to take a stand in life and say, I'm going to do this way. I'm going to do this way. While everyone else is yelling at you to do it this way. And they will try to convince you, the devil will try to convince you all the ways that you're wrong. And then you just plant your heels in the ground and you say, no, you can criticize me all you want, but I know the difference, right? And you're good people, please don't forget that.
Can I add something to that, Tim? I really like that discussion that Tim brought up, which is, I think, a natural reaction to taking vows. If you try to keep them. If you don't try to keep them, it won't happen. But this self-blaming and criticizing. And over the years, I think this is actually one built-in feature of taking vows. It's not a fault. It's not a problem in the software program, which is called Get Enlightened as soon as possible. It's a feature. Because if you are persistent enough to keep going while you criticize yourself for not being able to do what you want to do, naturally compassion must arise eventually for yourself. And if you can develop self-compassion, you will be able to develop compassion for others. So the negativity in your own mind about looking into the 6 times book and saying, wow, I screwed all of them today. And eventually it will turn the pain into a sweet feeling of compassion. So don't even push the criticism in your own mind away. Use it and think, did I want to break? Did I wake up in the morning, Kat, and wanted to break all 6 vows? No. There's no intention. But it happened. Why? Old seeds. What can I do? Compassion. You see?
So we have a short few minutes here for questions. Are there any burning? Yes. What's your name? What's that? Sorry, I couldn't see who it was. Can you say your name in the microphone, please?
Lesia.
Thank you.
You said earlier that we don't need to believe this blindly. We need to try those things, and then when we see results, we can see and believe it's true. And my question is here, what do we do when we don't see results? Well, let's say yet. We need this belief that it's true to continue doing, but still we don't see the result yet.
Well, Alessia, thank you for the question. And it's great because I want to clarify misunderstanding. If you think that you need to prove to yourself karma before you actually believe it, I think it's very hard and difficult. What we said, I believe, is that you have to understand things before you believe them. So you do not need to jump down from a huge building to experience that it will kill you. It's enough to understand that that will happen for you to stop doing that. You see the difference? Like a small baby, sometimes, I don't know in the US, but in Austria, they see the electricity cord, they take a little string and they're like, the parents freak out and explain eventually that that's not a good idea one way or another. You don't have to touch an electricity cord every time or even once to know that this is not a good idea. And exactly the same is true for these teachings. Step number one is study. Study. Learn so you can prove to yourself into your mind. This is a metaphor, just to be on the safe side, that jumping from a big building is a bad idea. And that implies for the vows, it implies for emptiness and karma and everything else. When you have that understanding, it will become much easier to be patient enough to do a 4-step program to also get the experience that it works. But the experience can take a little bit longer sometimes. The understanding you can get pretty fast. Make sense? Okay.
Yeah, and that's I think that's the thing that gets in a lot of people's way. You know, you can have some successes in part of your life, but then you're trying to change something else and it's just impossible. It seems impossible to change, right? And I think what Peter said is the understanding will help attenuate that frustration, because the more you understand about what's motivating us and what's driving us, there's so much that we don't know. That like you can be even Geshe talks about it. He's like, I've seen emptiness directly and I still get mad. I'm like, really? But if you look at his life and you look at the things that have happened to him, like the negative seeds didn't stop ripening just because he saw emptiness directly. I mean, I can't confirm that he did. Seems like it, right? But you know, things continue to happen, and there's forces that are beyond even an Arya's control, right? And so, but it's how you learn to react. It's how you learn to say, okay, how can I prepare my future self? What can I do for future me, for future you? That we don't have that anymore. You know, and what happens when there's a force of people who act that way? What happens when 150 people start acting that way? What happens when a whole town or a city or a whole country start acting that way? Like what does that world look like? What does that world entail? Who's there? Who's not there? What's not there? What gets canceled out when everybody is acting in this way? You know, and it's a staircase. It's an uphill battle, I think. But when you can imagine what that looks like and feel it, you know, that can keep you going when some things just seem impossible to change right now. Okay. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Marija, for joining.
Thank you, Tim.
I want to say one more thing. So tonight we have a concert this evening, and I'm going to say it a couple times, but just letting you know, it's a benefit concert for a program that we run. We offer scholarships to high school students, and specifically high school students who basically who come from economic situations where it makes it difficult for them to afford going to college. Mostly first generation students from Latin America. And we have a program every year. We give about $15,000 every year to high school students. And we have to raise that money for next year's students. And so the concert tonight is going to be a benefit for that particular program. And our goal is to reach $15,000 to support last year we gave 11 scholarships, I think, and helped 11 people go to college. And, oh, look, yay, there's our first $100. And we've been doing this program for over 10 years. It was started by Christine Walsh. She was a board member of ACI. And we keep doing it every single year. And we also believe at the Five Houses that serving our communities is as important as sitting in class and talking about emptiness and karma and vows and all of those things. Like we're putting our practice into real life. And so this is one of our main programs that we support outside. It's not about teachings. Maybe it is. But we're supporting people in real need. And I encourage all of you, first of all, please support this program because 10 to 15 people are in need next year. But also to think about your own communities. What kind of programming can you do in your community? And that's what we're going to be building in the Five Houses. Sending you out to go into your communities to say, okay, these people need help. These people need help. Because that's how we're going to change the world. Helping other people who are in real need. So this is what we're doing tonight. We're going to hear some great music. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to try to raise $15,000 tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you, dear teachers. That was really useful, even for me. Thank you very much. And I want to remind you guys that we will have yoga in 10:15, so please take your chairs away, okay? And give us space to practice. Thank you very much.